What is going on, guys? It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis. It is 12:26 noon where I'm at, and it's Saturday. We drop one of these videos once per week. If you're brand new here, I think there would be a few new people here watching NIO. Welcome. We do one of these videos once per week. We're going to actually share where we see NIO going into next week. We've been dropping one of these videos once per week for the past year, and we'll continue to do so, and I'll share my thoughts as to where I see things going. Having said that, if you're making a big financial decision, as always, do your own due diligence and do your own research. I'm just a guy who loves the stock, who loves charting the stock, and I've been wrong in the past before. So these are just my opinions, and I'm just here to share where I think NIO's going into next week. Last week was this most recent week that we just completed, pushed higher, beauty. 409 was always a big key level, and the next big level that I'm watching is 550. Now, because it broke above that and we got a little bit of like a push higher, beauty. The one thing I don't like is that it wasn't a clean bounce off of 409. Opens the gates to a 409 being revisited again. Now, we've seen it before in the past where we've had like a nice big move where it went down from that 409 zone. It actually went as low as how low did it go? It went to 403. This was back in February. And it made a nice move to $5, but it still came back to revisit 409 before giving you that pop to 550. Now, I've got my eyes set on 550. I do believe that's in the picture. What we want to rule out and we want to watch for is losing 409. If we lose 409, which is right over here, right at this level, if it comes and gives you that back to lose it, you're going to look at something like this, which is what we don't want. We don't want that. My thesis, I don't believe it's going to do that, but of course we always want to watch for that. What we want more is we want like that like clean pop, and not even, I think this didn't even go to 409, that went to 410. If you look at the low, which is like all the way on the top of my screen, right up here, you can see it only hit 409. If it is going to swing back down, you want it to be clean. This wasn't really clean, even though it did get above 409, it broke below it. To me, that opens the gates to like really retesting it. On top of that, I made a tweet on Friday. If you haven't already seen my tweets and you're not following on Twitter, I said I would post like if I noticed anything kind of weird. It was around 9 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I was like, "Hey guys," and it's right as I posted it. It pulled back. Actually, I wasn't intentionally trying to do that, but it was right at. I just wanted to just point when I tweeted. I think I tweeted right there, and it popped to like 457. I'm like, guys, something looks wrong. And not so much wrong, but like something to keep your eyes on. And I was pointing out to the fact that the velocity made a lower high, even though the price made the higher high. That's usually what happening is the bulls are pushing it as hard as they can, but they're not able to push it as fast as possible. And that's usually kind of a last hurrah before like a cool off period or before a dip period. Now, if we were to study and go to the left actually and say like, okay, what happened the last time we had a big 100% rally? It gave you a really nice period, a 10-day consolidation period. Now, mind you, that happened around the 550 price zone. And we've already now noticed it made it all the way to 550 without breaking the 200-day moving average. We broke the 200-day moving average twice. Price is getting a little bit shaky, timing-wise as well. We'll have to watch this very, very carefully, but I do anticipate that 409 level getting revisited. I have had some people saying like, hey, when's a good time to get in? Is it going to dip? Is it just going to run? Is it just going to go straight to 8? And like, we got to cross these bridges. Like, I don't want to talk about 8 or anything. I don't want to talk about anything until we see what it does at 550 and we see what it does at 409. The fact that we're above 409 opens the gates to 550, but it needs to be clean. It needs to hold. It needs to show that it's proven. Now, it did give you that big pop. It might. My guess is that we're going to actually get a retest here of that zone and right around 409, potentially 410. I mean, I would love to see kind of the same thing right over here, 410, and then boom, it just goes. Now, if you look from a velocity perspective, and just like how fast that thing dropped, it dropped 20% to only rise 30% the following week. Like, wow, what a crazy volatility. So here's the deal. I like NIO. I don't like that it didn't give you a clean bounce, but I think bulls are still doing really, really hot. They're really, really good, but you might want to see it cool down. And a quick revisit here is you do want it to give you like that big, like, just dip. Give it a dip to cool it off so that it gives you the next leg higher. And if it just wants to go sideways in a little range and give you like a bull flag, beauty. That's what I want to see. I think that would be very healthy. Now, it would be something along this lines, little bull flag, right? If it wants to give you this bull flag, maybe it comes in this range, and it may not come all immediately to 409, but it works its way down finally to 409 before you kind of get 550. Now, I'm not crossing 840 and bigger targets until we see what happens at 550. Okay, so one thing at a time, you guys. There's no telling what it'll do as it reaches those price actions. What I can tell you is the odds are good for NIO that it has that higher low that formed on the velocity. Last time I did that was last year right here, and that's when we got that big pop. So odds look really good. There are some things that kind of make me think like, okay, like, is it struggling? I mean, it really was only like one bad day. So let's see what it does. I think we're probably going to get that pullback into 409. Now, when you say like, well, what do you mean pullback? People get really upset when I say that. I see the comments. I've had people come and say, "Oh, you think about is there's just going to be one more pullback." I mean, I understand the mechanics of a price. When the price kind of shoots up, you want to see a pullback. Now, if I look at this velocity going kind of just in a straight vertical line, as we saw right over here, a pullback would look something like this, right? Where I can see that it's pulled back, right? Like on that velocity. It hasn't really done that, although it's slowly curling. And when I go to the 2-hour time frame, remember we talked about this. If you go here, I don't even know if that actually like busted. Did that bust? That crack below? Let's see. It didn't crack below. Wait, I'm not drawing that neatly. It might have cracked below. So cracked below, and it gave you like that dip. That was this dip right here. It wasn't much. It was like a 5%. How about it went from 420 down to 498. So that was one of the dips. But when you see something like this where it gives you 1, 2, and you can argue that was 3. I'm going to go ahead and, for the sake of this argument, call it 3. Eventually, when this cracks, you get that big knife. That big knife kind of comes. What's happening is it's setting up, like it's stretching. Eventually, when this thing crosses under, you're going to get a big red candle. Not big. I don't want to shock you guys, because I do believe 409 is going to provide solid support and solid foundation. But I think that's what could be in store. And if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to be wrong. If this thing wants to run to 550 first, I'll be happy to be wrong. So many drawings. So I'm going to try and clear out some of these drawings. Delete these brushes here. There we go. That's pretty clean. If I'm wrong and this wants to just rip, we could just rip. But you know what that would look like? That would just look more ridiculous, I think. It would look a lot like this line would just continue to go straight up. And yeah, sure, maybe there's more leg. Maybe it gives you another like wachow right into 550, but I don't know. I don't think you can do 550 in one shot. Actually, it wasn't. I'm skeptical, and part of the reason why I'm skeptical, actually, a little bit with it doing that, is that velocity. Buyers are already showing that buyer exhaustion. You didn't get that actually here. If you take a peek at the velocity, it reached 550 without any bearish divergences. And we got a bearish divergence on here, so I'm watching it. I'm being a little bit more alert. Having said that, that's pretty much where I think it's going into next week. I think you're getting something along these lines, a dance. You get that one little knife, and then it'll come up into 550. That's what I'm praying for. If it loses 409, like it did here, you're literally going to get a repeat of that, which I don't think is going to happen. But again, we got to watch. We got to see what it does at 409. You don't want it to break 409. So that's like the line in the sand actually for this rally, is you don't want 409 to lose. 409 loses, then you're opening the gates back up to $3. Which we don't want. We do not want that, you guys. We want it to hold. Next week, I think things will cool off. I think things will cool off next week into 409. And maybe the following week, boom, 550. Let's see. Let's see if I'm right. If I'm wrong, well, I've been wrong in the past before, guys. That's just my opinion. And this is just what I see. And if I do notice something kind of radical happening here with the velocity, I'll let you guys know. But I think it'll be pretty obvious. If I'm wrong, this thing will be breaking above 4. It'll be pushing above 450, and it'll just be pushing. It'll go straight to like 550. You'll see it if I'm wrong, and I'll be that'll be awesome. I don't think it's gonna happen. Baba also has the exact same bearish divergence that's actually forming on Baba. It had that big push higher, but it did so on lower velocity. Baba's got that big gap right down below, which we've seen before. We've seen it run without actually filling the gaps. I'm happy with Baba. Very, very happy with Baba. I think Baba will go parabolic. If you take a look at the last 2 runs that it had, parabolic. And if it's the same way, you might even just get the exact same thing, actually. 24-hour time frame, it's just breaking the 200-day moving average. Now, someone did ask me to take a look at Baidu. Real quick, Baidu, if I was looking at it, let's delete that. I know some of you guys are in Baidu. I was taking a quick peek at that. We'll just do that for the sake of argument. It's not fully in the clear yet. I think Baidu would need to get above 93. Bit more messy, but this is, again, I don't want to spend too much time analyzing Baidu. Then my video is just going to be like analyzing every other stock, and then we're not going to kind of get to my point here. This video is primarily for NIO, but this is just a quick peek for you guys who want to take a look and see where Baidu is. I can see it's broken above the 200-day moving average. The 200 moving average, it did try to make a higher low, then it made a lower low here, actually. So it might try and make a higher low. So you could get a dip, actually, kind of coming on Baidu as well. I could see that. Hang Seng Index. I think it wants to get into 26. Another 1,000 points. 2,600. Like, it looks good. And I think I was telling you last week, like, wow, this looks so great. Like, what a beautiful bounce. And it is. But until it gives you a higher low, until this gives you a higher high, it might just be another lower low, and this thing's consolidating. You can almost like draw this out. Take a look what's forming here. Did it actually break that? If it broke that, that's beautiful. It did break it. Beautiful. Beautiful. So it broke. I'm bullish on Hang Seng. Hang Seng Index does. I can see it kind of. It's got some more room to kind of rise higher. But when I go in the 2 hours, no bearish divergences. Beautiful. Nothing's showing bearish actually here on the Hang Seng Index from a bearish divergence standpoint if you're in the 2 hours. So that's a really good thing for NIO. Maybe I'm analyzing it wrong. But then when I look at some other things, that gets me a little bit concerned. So the Dixie, we look at this every single day. It's actually broken above this channel that I've had drawn out for a long time. It's broken back above, retested it. Like there was always the thesis with the US dollar. Dixie's the US dollar, by the way, for those who don't know, where it was rated at 96 points. 39. It hit 96 briefly. There was always the thesis that it would actually come up and push lower into 92, which was a possibility. But now that it's broken above here, broken back into the channel, it opens the gates to seeing 103 being tested. That's a nice significant move on the US dollar. And look at this consolidation, followed by that big oomph knife right there. And it's curling, and it just made a higher high on the velocity. I think the Dixie's gonna keep rising. It's some I've read a post on Reddit, and someone's like, "Yeah, I think the U.S. dollar's crashing." And I was a little bit like laughing, thinking like, it just went from 96 to 98, almost 99, and I think the U.S. dollar is gonna make a comeback, and we're gonna see that come into 103, and it's just starting. Remember, this thing has been on a downtrend for almost 150 days. That's like 3 or 4 months. And it's now starting to break character. It's starting to break out. I think that's going to rise higher. I made a post also on Friday about the VIX. I talked about like, hey guys, when two trend lines break, that's when things get a little kind of shaky. So we all remember when the tariffs came out, the VIX hit like 60, and it made this trend line. That was our first trend line. And from there, we got a little bit of a pullback. The VIX going up was the pullback across the market, but it created our second trend line, which we have now broken. Now, pay close attention. We have not broken above the 200-day moving average yet. And when we do, it will, because it always does. That's how it works. And when it does, we're going to get that big move. And I think it'll be something like this, where it'll be like this really big, like it'll be trading at like 15, 16. All of a sudden, before you blink, it's going to be 25, 30. Like in a day, it'll be like poof. Volatility is going to come back. Now, if you notice, the last time I drew out some other opportunity times where it's like, oh, it broke one trend line, it broke a second trend line, and off it went. One, I just was a little sloppy because it's so high up. It's ridiculous. But there was one, and then I had to try and find the most previous high. I mean, you can argue that this was a run, and you can say this was two. But what I did instead is I said, okay, this was the newest high. That's your two. That was your one. That was your two. That's how I analyzed that. You can see it over and over and over and over again if you do it. I didn't do it all the time, but it's an important index to look at to really try and figure out like, hey, is something happening here actually? I do want to point out one other thing on the VIX. Now, some of you guys, if I lost you here, I mean, then that's fair, but this is important for those of you that want to understand like, hey, is there going to be a really big market correction? Most people who have their money and their equities in the stock market, you should care about this actually on the VIX. You'll notice it made it low here, VIX at 15, and it broke that velocity to the downside, but it's now reclaimed it. Last time we kind of saw something similar like that. It broke to the downside, and when it broke back above, you got that big move. I do think something is in store for the overall market, because I think if SPY starts giving you the pullback, it's going to drag everything down. Perhaps you see the diversion. Hang Seng may not necessarily follow, but if we start seeing something like that, oh, and I'm here at the SPY to kind of show you. This is the velocity on the 24 hours. Let's delete that. So if you look at the velocity on the 24 hours, it's pretty high up. The last time we were kind of at these levels, that's usually when you start seeing a big pullback. Now, notice most of those big pullbacks happen after it breaks the 200-day moving average. So it's still rise. So maybe we see this rise until it finally cracks here. But we did see it start to pull back right here. The last time we were up there, it started its pullback leg. And to me, that this is what I think is very much possible playing out. If I were to do a ghost bar pattern, not ghost bar, bar pattern. That's the one I wanted. I think we can get something like that. Pull back, and then boom, it goes way, way, way higher. That's what I believe on the SPY. Again, this is just a NIO stream, but I like to, wrap up by looking at everything. Bitcoin, I look at Bitcoin, which broke out of its like crazy channel. And I think at some point, you're going to get that retest at 113. At some point, you'll get that retest at 113. It took a while. Like the last time it broke above its channel, it ended up wanting to test the medium before it came down and retested. So if it's the same way, Bitcoin might not come down. Bitcoin might come up to 140, 143, and then ease its way down to 130 before it finally pushes to like 180. It would look like this. Consolidates, comes up, work its way down, and back up. It would be along those lines. And then it would basically, I can actually just draw this out. Let me draw that out. I might have lost some of you guys. Some of you guys don't care about Bitcoin. But again, oddly, when Bitcoin runs, that's also when NIO is running as well. So these are things that you want to just kind of keep your eye on it. Did I do that right? I didn't do that right. I should have did it like this. Something along those lines. And then we're like right there. That is kind of maybe how it could play out. Possibly. The only way it wouldn't play out this way is on the way back down, it breaks below 115, which would be an absolute travesty for any of the bulls who are probably going all in on Bitcoin at 115 if it came back down to 70. Anyways, that wraps up my video. Did I lose the drawings on NIO? I lost my drawings on NIO. 409, I'm going to call it 409 into next week. Let's get there quickly. Probably not till Friday, I'm guessing, because they're going to draw it out. It's going to be slow if they're going to get to 409, because if that's the last low, it won't get to that point until the very last day is what I think. And then boom, up a straight rocket ride up to 550. And if I'm wrong, we're going to go to 550 next week. That's it. That's all. If you've watched my video and you enjoyed it, don't forget to give me the thumbs up. And don't forget, if you're new here, to subscribe to my channel. We do one of these videos once per week. And if you're not already following me on Twitter, please do follow me on Twitter. We will try and post some updates that we see throughout the week. Hope you guys all have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.